Hello, everybody. I hope you are doing really, really well. So we are live on Lucy's LinkedIn. We are live in the Digital Women community, and we are also live on the Digital Women Facebook page. And we are here every single month. I feel so lucky with Digital Women, Agora Pulse, interviewing and asking questions to the incredible Ravi Shukle, country manager at Agora Pulse, among other things, social media related as well. And welcome, Ravi. Today, we're going to be talking about the power of repurposing social media content. But first of all, Ravi, let's have an introduction. Who are you and what do you do?
Thanks, Lucy. These intros get more creative every single month. So yeah, for all the guys tuning in that may not have seen our previous episodes, my name is Ravi. I'm the country manager at Agora Pulse. So I look after all the marketing for Agora Pulse in the UK and Ireland. In terms of my background, I've been doing social media for over 10 years now, and it's literally all I eat, sleep, and breathe. So I'm super geeky about the subject, which is why we're going to have a lot of fun today talking about content repurposing and how you can use it to get results for your business.
Fantastic. Apparently there's a few issues with this going out live on LinkedIn at the moment with the platform. But thank you so much, Ravi. Every month we get to pick Ravi's brains and ask him questions around social media. And we've done some really great sessions so far. This week we are talking about the power of repurposing social media content. So I'm going to kick off and ask you a question first, Ravi, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
My question is, and I do know the answer to this, but this is for people who don't know the answer because they're like, what repurposing social media content? What is that? What is repurposing social media content, Ravi?
Yeah, good question. So obviously we know content is sharing any piece of information online or offline. You know, that's content. So repurposing content. So repurposing just means reusing. And when we talk about repurposing content, and especially today, we're going to be talking about how we can reuse or repurpose our existing content, so content we already have, to turn that into a lot more content across all our social media channels. So how can you make your existing content work harder for you without actually having to create new content every single day, week, or month? So essentially, content repurposing, how you can reuse your content. And today we'll be focusing on how you can do that on your social media channels.
Okay, really interesting. So you're talking about having an existing piece of content that you so like, is that like a blog or something like that?
Yes, it could be so it could be a blog, a video, even a tweet, any form of information that you've created to go on your social media channels as content. So that could be the base of what we'll use to start repurposing. And I'll obviously go into that a little bit later in terms of the best way to kick that off.
Okay, thank you. So how do you get started then, Ravi? So we know what repurposing is. How do we get started with content repurposing?
Yeah, really good question. I think speaking to a lot of businesses and social media managers, obviously, being one myself over the last years, like the hardest thing to do is, sit in front of the screen and figure out how you're going to fill up your content calendar, because it seems like there's never ending content, and how do you choose and where does it go? So content repurposing can help with some of that, because the best place to start is what we like to call hero content. And hero content is your most valuable piece of content that you have created. And it's different for every business. So let's just take our example here. Today, this live Q&A, this could be my hero content. This is the most valuable piece of content I've created, which I feel has the most value in it. So it could be a blog for you guys listening. It could be a video. It could be a long form text update, or it could even be some tweaks. Generally, your hero content is a bigger piece of content, so like a longer video or a longer blog. And once you have that, you can then start to repurpose and reuse that as well. So to answer your question, the starting point would be identify your most valuable or most popular piece of content. And that's going to be step one in terms of a starting point in terms of what you can actually use to repurpose. And if you haven't got a blog, it could also be something you post on your social channels. Just make sure it's the most valuable piece of content you've shared, and that would be the starting point.
Absolutely. Okay, so it sounds like this is a really good way for people to save time. So they've got a good piece of content, rather than just sticking it out on social media as it is once, you can actually somehow maybe manipulate it or do something with it. What would you do with it, Ravi, to make it repurposed, for example?
Yeah, exactly. That is $1 million question. So we'll take a blog, for example, just because most people have, or businesses have created some kind of written content. And like I said, if it's not a blog because you don't have a website, you've obviously written posts for your social channel. So if we take a blog or a long post you've written for social as your hero content, the next phase begins in repurposing. So like we said in the beginning, repurposing means reusing. Step one is breaking the blog piece down into what we like to call micro content. And that's just another fancy way of saying smaller pieces of content. So if you have a blog, and let's just say it's tip-based, like 7 ways to get more followers, each way that you list could be a separate piece of content. So you could turn each one of those 7 ways into tweets. You could read out the 7 ways, and that could be a podcast. You could record yourself and explain those 7 ways in person. That's now a video. And if you wanted to take just the headlines of each of those 7 ways, those could be smaller tweets. And if you want to turn each of those 7 ways into images, they can now go onto Pinterest, Instagram stories, Facebook stories. Just from that short example, we've probably got about, if you do 7 times 4 or 5, you've probably got over 30 pieces of content already. You can do that with video as well. You can chop up your video into smaller segments. So the key takeaway from this would be, look to break down that big piece of content, the hero content, into smaller, manageable, bite-sized pieces of information. And then the really important part is when you go to schedule it on your social media channels or plan for it to go out, make sure you space it out. Because what will happen is, for example, today we're talking about content repurposing, but if you followed us and all we talked about was content repurposing for the next 30 posts, guarantee there'll be quite a few unfollows, because you've heard about the topic once, and if you want to learn more, you probably will click through. But spacing it out over the month means that people can digest it slowly. And also in terms of marketing and psychology, if you see something more than once, like a handful of times, you can retain that information in the brain a little bit better, and it becomes more memorable. So spacing it out a couple of times a week over the month means you can now sit back and have a regular flow of content for the next couple of weeks.
Well, Ravi, that does sound really, really good. I just want to remind everybody, I know we're not able to stream onto LinkedIn right now, but I just want to remind you guys, I can see you watching in the Facebook community, so hi. Please make sure you send your questions in for Ravi. It's a super interesting topic, actually. I feel like it feels like it might be quite, it might take a lot of time to do this repurposing, taking a piece of content and turning it into lots of different different things. So are there any added benefits to it in terms of like time taking to create this one piece of content that turns into lots of different pieces of content, or not really?
Yeah, good point. So for anyone managing social, the dream is going to be to wake up, check your calendar and have it all filled out for the whole month, knowing that all the content's planned in advance. That's what we aim to do in the ideal world every month. Like, we try and be that planned with our content. So in terms of how long that takes, if you imagine a video or a blog post, to turn that one piece of content into those 10 or 15 different types will probably take on average between an hour or 2, maybe probably around about an hour, because it's not that it's complicated. It's the fact that the real benefit of content repurposing is you don't have to stop repurposing the content. So if I created 7 tweets out of this blog, they could go out all year round, and they can even go out next year and the year after, assuming the information is still relevant, obviously. So that content's going to work for you for the rest of the year in essence. So when you create it for one piece of content, you never have to create it again. And that is what the time-saving factor is. And also, people on social media like to consume posts in different ways. So for example, me personally, I may watch a video on something as opposed to read a full blog post. Or if I haven't got much time and I still want to learn about something, maybe I'll scroll through Instagram or look at a tweet. So by repurposing on different social channels, you appeal to people who like to consume the information in different ways. And in terms of time saving, imagine you're only doing this like once a week and you're planning your month out. You could probably dedicate half a day or a day once a month to actually plan all of this content, and then your whole month is free, left for you to be reactive and responding to comments and replies, and you can just sit back and obviously watch your content go out on all your different channels. So it's a huge game changer, because you have to imagine what an average social media manager goes through is they spend 35-45 minutes researching, writing all the tweets, planning that. And if you do that in real time every day or every week, it's going to take a lot of time at the end of the month. Whereas if you do the repurposing strategy, maybe half a day once a month, you can actually plan all of this content in advance. In terms of technical skills, there's websites like rev.com, REVV.com, where you can transcribe your videos. You can also, if you've already got a blog post, like I said, the only technical skill you need is to point your phone straight at you and start speaking, and you can do the same with the audio. If you need design, obviously there's websites like Canva or pixlr.com, all free websites there as well, and you can use those to actually create images for your posts, and then you can obviously schedule those out to your social channels as well. So the main thing is, when it comes to actually scheduling it, you don't need technical skills. You can use these free tools to actually schedule it in advance. And if you do want something custom, then you can obviously speak to a designer. But if you create templates for these type of posts, you'll save a huge amount of time moving forward.
Absolutely. Sorry that you might have lost me there for a second, and now I'm over the other side, which feels weird, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I just pressed login because I thought it would help me to be able to see the comments if I was logged in. But anyway, I'm not logged in, so I can't answer the question. So if there is any, just put them up on the screen. Okay, that makes loads of sense. And I'll just give you an example. We just did that actually. We did an event called Digital Skills Festival. And from that, we had lots of different speakers, and then we created reels from it. We created a whole ebook guide for people to download off the back of it. You know, there's so much content from the back of it that we could just use that all year round. And then we could put all the videos on YouTube. Yeah, so it's really, really good. And actually that's a year's worth of content on conference actually. So really, really fantastic. And as a social media manager, Ravi, from that side of things, because I guess social media managers are going to know what repurposing is. So is an ideal client a client who already has a lot of really good content there that you can just get cracking on?
Yeah, I think the ideal client is one willing to create content. They may not already have a lot, especially if you're a small business owner, you're running the business, you're not used to creating content because it's really a marketing thing. So to get the buy-in from those people, you'd advise them, or the best way to do it would be to even interview them so you can get some type of content to start off with. And I'm glad you mentioned social media managers, because there's one part we haven't covered, which is, how do I know this works? How do I measure it? Is it just the fact that my content calendar is full and I should be happy, or does this actually help me get business results? So the reason I mentioned using your hero content is because if that's a blog post or a post on your social media channels, every time you repurpose it, you link back to that original source. Now, if it's your website, that's going to go back to your site. And then by repurposing it throughout the month, you're going to get a constant flow of website traffic, which obviously means more people go to your website, they learn more about you, they may inquire about your services. If you're repurposing like Digital Skills Fest, and let's just say the option to download or watch the content after is available as a download, you could drive people to that form to download more. So then you're constantly getting email signups by repurposing your content. So every time you repurpose your content, you can link it back to the original source, and it helps you top up your traffic numbers. It means you can drive people to sign up for emails, your website, and that will be happening every month without you creating new content. So make sure when you repurpose, you always drive back to the original content piece. And it's just a fun way of your fans and followers consuming your content in a totally different way.
I love it. Is there an example that you can give of a time when you had a piece of content that you repurposed in various different ways, and what kind of results did you see, and how did you actually look at across the results and work out, you know, whether it was worthwhile or not?
Yeah, good question. So a little while ago, probably last year, just over a year ago. I ran a virtual conference, and obviously it had quite a handful of speakers. And in terms of how I was getting signups, the easy way to do it would be like, oh, head over to this page and join our event, and that would be one tweet or one post. Repurposing it meant I spoke to each of the speakers individually, and they all kind of done small snippets of video. We also created a custom images for each speaker. So now we're talking about 20 speakers, each having a video and an image. That's like, 40 pieces of content. And sharing that throughout the month in the lead up to the event meant we got we used links to drive back to the sign up page. And we use like what we like to call UTM links, which is a small piece of code by Google, which you put at the end of your website address, and you can basically name that link. So when you go to Google Analytics, you can name the content and the campaign, so you can see exactly where the traffic's coming from. So through the Google Analytics data, we could see that we were getting a handful of people clicking through via our Twitter, Facebook, and our social channels to drive traffic back to that sign up. Now, obviously, an event is an easy example because you've got loads of speakers and they have their own followings. But if you're a smaller business, we've also done that with video. So if you had a 5-minute video, we've chopped it down into 20-second stories, like you said, reels. We've also used that as teaser content for Twitter. And in terms of ads, we've turned some of those video pieces of content into ads to drive people to sign up or to get more information about the business as well. So it doesn't have to be like an event, but even if you've got video content, you can chop that up into different lengths and use that across your social channels with the goal of driving back to your website or your YouTube channel. Again, it's just going to help you grow your following or your email addresses and your website traffic, which is what we want for everyone listening today, to get more potential leads out of it so they can turn those into sales.
Absolutely. And how much time would you say you should be spending on this? So let's take an example. If you had like a long form video or a really nice, meaty blog, for example, and you want to turn those into content actually that's going to send you back to the video or the the blog, so that you can get people to your pixels trigger or someone's download something or whatever it is that you want to do.
Yes.
How much should you be spending on turning that into content, and what sort of things can you pull out of the content? This is 2 questions. How long?
Yeah, sure.
What sort of things could you pull out of that content to make it worthwhile repurposed content?
Yeah, really good question. So how long is obviously like, how long's a piece of string, but you can actually measure it. So one of my favorite words for everyone listening is processes, because how you repurpose your blog is going to be how you repurpose all your blogs. Like the steps you take for blog A is going to be the steps you take for blog Z, because what you do for each blog is going to be the same. So the first step is actually make a list, like literally a list, write it down on Google Docs or pen and pad or Trello or Asana, whatever tool you like to use to manage your day-to-day. Write down the steps that you would take to repurpose that blog and where you want that repurposed. A quick example would be like, I have a long form blog. I want to turn it into 5 tweets. I want to record it for audio. I want to shoot a video for it. I want to create 5 images for it. And I may want to do 5 smaller videos for each of the tips, for example. In the end, I've seen people have repurposing lists of like 50. But if you want to start with like all the channels you have, each social channel, you can repurpose it into each one of those. You can turn each of the blog tips into tweets. So that can be a handful there. And you can use those tips then on your Instagram stories, your Facebook posts, like I said, on Twitter, or you can even turn the images into quote images. And now you can use those on like Pinterest and your other social channels. So step 1, make a list of all the places that you want to repurpose. And then you'd have to go through that process the first time round to know how long all of that takes. Now, everyone listening wants to save time because that's the name of the game. So like I said, you can use Canva for very simple tools. You can use like that rev.com to transcribe your video, so it already turns it into text. Or if you're super busy, you could even outsource the actual video editing to a video editor, or you could outsource if it was the other way around and you had a video and you wanted to turn it into a blog, once you got it transcribed, because rev.com's like $1 or I don't know, what's that, about 80p a minute, into text, you can get a copywriter to turn that text into a more blog friendly format. Once you go through your process, once you know, like, I want to turn this blog into 12 things based on everything I've said, you can then go through that process and track how long that takes you and outsource the stuff that's going to take you a little bit of time. It won't be super expensive to do like rev.com or to create certain Canva images. But once you have the templates for that, the next time you create a blog, it shouldn't be no more than like 20, 25 minutes to repurpose that one piece into, 10 or 20 pieces. We recently did a content day challenge a couple of weeks ago with the community, and everyone in there absolutely nailed it because they weren't the most technical. They didn't need to be, but they took the approach of finding that hero piece of content and just start actively repurposing it and scheduling it out. And, a lot of the results were people couldn't believe how far you can make a piece of content go rather than just tweeting it once or twice and hoping for the best. So it really is a game changer to save you guys time. Document the process in terms of what you need to do, and that will help you do it. And then in terms of the how, like I said, you could use the tools like I mentioned, or you could find a VA or virtual assistant to help with like copywriting or video editing. So it frees up your time to create more of the content that you enjoy.
Wow, brilliant. That sounds really, really exciting. So if you're a small business, or even if you're a big business or whatever, you could just literally right now go back through all your blogs, videos, anything you created, white papers, anything, make a list of everything, and make sure it's still relevant, and literally just go through everything and just create social media content for all of your social media channels based off each of these articles. So you literally could have your content calendar stuffed for the whole year right now.
You could, yeah. Well, for one single piece of content, it will go out throughout the year. But in theory, you'd have like one piece would turn into like 25 to 30 pieces. Now, obviously, on our chat today, there's way too many to go into. But like we said, you can turn videos into blogs, into podcasts. You can turn them into ebooks, white papers. There's so many different types. If you literally Google content repurposing types, you'll probably get a list of 20 or 30 or 40. And obviously, to do all of this stuff, you need to be super organized. And, for us, we obviously like to use Agorapulse to schedule that so we can see everything in a calendar view. If you're using Facebook itself, or you haven't got a tool, then obviously your other options are things like Excel or something like that. But that can take a bit longer because to change something, you have to edit the cell, copy and paste, delete. If you use a tool to manage that process, you're going to breeze through, because if you do need to make any edits, you can drag to a different date, change the times, all in a couple of clicks without you having to re-edit and re-upload, which again is going to take more time. So I definitely look at using a tool. Obviously, we use Agorapulse just because we have that nice calendar view, and it means we can see everything in advance. And more importantly, if we change our mind or something's not relevant, we'll just switch the date by clicking the button and editing the times.
Absolutely. I think you're right, Ravi. Just having somewhere to schedule and put all of the content into is really important, because there's no way, if you're making 25, 30 pieces of content off each like piece of hero content, that you can then just wake up every day and like share it to different social networks. You have to, in this instance, you have to have a tool that you can put the content into to schedule out when it needs to go out and scale. That's how you will scale the content, right?
Yeah, that's really important, using the word scale, because we're only talking about one piece of content. So if one piece of content could be 20, that means 5 pieces of content could be 100, and your head's about to explode if you had to manage all of that manually through email attachments and Google Drives. Of course, it's possible, but like we said, we want to make your life easier through these live Q&As we do every week. And one of the ways to do that is to use a tool, because then you could schedule 100 or 200 knowing it's all gone out. And, some of the tools, including ours, just allows you to easily edit and move things around. So you don't have to waste time emailing and doing attachments. So that part of the process is going to save everyone a whole bunch of time.
Okay. And say you do hire, say you're a business and you hire like a VA or a social media manager or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You've actually created social media content yourself. So you're giving it to the social media manager to get the best out of it, or you're giving it to the VA to, schedule it out or whatever it is. So which they're two different jobs, by the way, for anybody who's
Yes.
wondering. These are two different things. But how's the best way to give that content to them? Would you just give it to them, dump it to them, and say, right, get this out there, kind of thing? Or with social media, they probably know. But like, if you have an admin assistant or something who's going to put it out for you, what is it that you're asking them to do? I think that's a really important part of it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So it kind of ties to that point we said earlier about process. So if you're following our step by step today and you've made a list of 10 places you want to repurpose it, you share those 10 places with that VA or social media manager. But way more importantly, you tell them exactly how you want the post to look on each of those channels. And the easiest way to do that is to create a template. So if it's a tweet, then share an example of a tweet that you like for your business. So I'm totally making this up on the fly, but if it was like Coca-Cola, you'd be like, make sure my tweets all have a red background and the font's in white. And I want them to look like this. And you do that for each of the social channels. That way the VA can just follow the instructions, because if anyone out there is like me and they may be like, not picky, but like they may be like obsessed with the finer details and they get lost in it, right? So you're like, can you change this, move this here, move that there? And that obviously takes time. So to avoid that, create a template, maybe use something like Canva to create that template post. Or like we said, Pixel or any design software that you like to use, even use Google Docs. There's obviously another free software called Loom, Loom, and it's a screen recording software. So if you go to loom.com, you sign up for free or whatever, you click the button, it'll be like a Chrome extension, and it just starts recording your screen. And the reason that would be good is you could actually talk through what you want done once you repurpose your content, and up to 5 minutes of recording is free. And you can send it to the VA or social media manager. They can save it in a doc and just watch that whenever they want it. And it saves you having to explain yourself. So create templates. It makes things a lot easier because it means they can then focus on creating the posts based on the words you chopped out. And it also means they'll do it to your exact brand guidelines, because we know one thing we didn't mention is doing all this repurposing needs someone to look after it all to make sure it actually fits in with your brand. So doing a little bit of foundational work or leg work in the beginning to create the templates will be a game changer, because now when you've got a blog, you know the 10 places you want to share it, you've got the videos you send to your social media manager, and your VA knows how to design the posts and send it to the social media manager or schedule them to your channels, and everything's documented. So if you wanted to scale and you wanted to create 1,000 pieces of content, you could hire 3 more VAs, 2 more social media managers or whatever it was, and show them the exact same process, and you could sit back and get all the content in one place. This is what Gary Vee does as well. He's got 20 people on his content team. I'm not suggesting anyone here go to those lengths, but the point being, because he's built a process, the team knows what to create, when to create, and where to share it, which is what we want for all of you today when you're repurposing.
Absolutely. I mean, processes definitely create scale, don't they, by the sounds of things. And actually, it makes me think there should be, like, I want to create a document, my own document I can give to people to say, this is how you, I don't know if you already got that, Ravi, have you?
Yeah, so it would be unique to each business depending on how many pieces of content you want to repurpose. But this isn't just for those people out there that want to hire a VA. Like, I would use it internally for your colleagues to be like, look, we do these live Q&As with Lucy. It's amazing. Can you go and tweet these out and do all this stuff and have that ready? So when the live Q&A is done, then you know exactly what to do with it. And it also helps you promote whatever you're working on over a longer period of time. So unless the information is out of date, then obviously you have to have a kind of cutoff point. But if it's not, then, like we said earlier, you could be sharing this all year round. And obviously, just to be clear, when we say all year round, we mean in the first month, you could probably do 2 or 3 a week. And then every month after that, it might just be once a week, just so it's in the back of people's minds. But remember, every month you're going to have a different focus. So you can't share it 3 times a week for the whole year, because it'll be an overkill for people. So As the months go on, you slowly do reduce it. But the fact that it's always going out, especially on social networks like Twitter or Instagram stories, you could share up to 5 to 25 tweets a day. So as long as they're valuable, no one's going to have a problem with consuming that. So yeah, you can share it with your internal team, more importantly, and obviously with VAs if you want to outsource that to save extra time as well.
Brilliant. I love that. So it's almost like when you create the blog, for example, the blog post that you're creating, you need to have something in there, obviously, about like the title tag, the SEO stuff, which most people do when they do blogs anyway. But then you add this additional parts to it saying, right, what can we create? What we're going to create from this and how we're going to do it. And then when are we going to make sure that it's going out and what is it going to look like? It's just a whole content marketing document rather than just like a blog post. It's the whole document that includes the blog post, the titles, the tags, and the repurposing guidelines and that kind of thing as well. It just makes sense.
And if you've got a team, you could put who's responsible for each task. So then like John will email Sarah and be like, all right, I've done the blog into tweets. Now it's your job to schedule it out. Sarah will then schedule it out. And then once she's scheduled it out, she'll, go back to someone else. And like, as long as you have who's responsible for each task, there's never going to be a back and forth with it's not my role, it's yours, or I wasn't supposed to do it, or this is way too much. Like everything's clearly marked, and obviously you agree that with your team. And if you're a one-man band or a one-person team, create a smaller repurposing list initially and create the templates for yourself, because the goal for you guys one day is to grow and build a team, hopefully. So it's always going to be useful. It's never going to be anything that you're not going to use at a later stage. And use something like Google Docs or Evernote so it's there forever. So if you ever need to tweak it or update it, it's a couple of clicks and you're not having to edit a PDF or spend time doing that. So make sure it's something online where you can edit as well.
I love that, Ravi. I think it's so good. So just I think as a final question, because we've been here for a while now, and like guys, you can ask questions if you want to. If there's anything that you want to ask, just ask it, and we'll bring it up on the screen. You can hide yourself as well if you want, if you don't want to be shown on the on the screen or whatever. So Ravi, it sounds like we've got to this point where we've created all of this amazing content. We know why we're sharing it out. We've got goals in mind and that kind of thing. So perhaps we've got like 1,000 pieces of content. Is it going to matter then? Is it important that you have a lot of content going out on social media all the time, or is it more important that you have one big piece of really important content that goes out once in a while, or is it more important that you're doing this kind of like feed me slowly and drip me content as you go? Like what's going to work?
That's a really good question. So to round off, the hero piece of content is not changing. That's always going to be the most important piece of content for you at the time, whether it's the interview, the blog, the story, the social media post. By repurposing it, you're driving traffic back to the hero content. So that is going to be the goal. And we know with social media, attention spans, if we look at, even if I look at how I use Instagram, you're always scrolling through the feed. You're never like stopping to watch something, unless it's a story, you may pause or hold your finger down. But the point is, it goes by so fast that 10 seconds later, I should say, you're consuming something else. So by repurposing, it keeps your content top of mind. If you shared that hero piece of content once, that's one opportunity for it to be seen. Repurposing and the value we want to convey today is by having multiple posts saying the same thing, but done it in different ways, means you can raise awareness for that one piece of content 10 or 25 different times. So there really is no reason why most people shouldn't be using this technique, even if it's not 50 pieces of content from one, even if it's just turning one video or blog into 3 or 4 things, that's still an additional way. And I'd say test it for yourself. Test out a small repurposing strategy this week and measure the results by next week. And you'll notice the extra clicks, likes, and comments come in because they've now got extra ways to interact with you. And that's what we want. We want more eyeballs on your content so more people can learn more about you and ultimately go to your website or contact you or ask for your product or services.
It makes so much sense, doesn't it? Because you don't want to be wasting, you've created this really great piece of content, it's a really good blog, and it took you ages to write, and it's so good. And then you put it out once on social media, and then only a handful of people are going to see it anyway, unless you're spending ads like to get people to read it. So just want to make as many people see that as possible. So it makes so much sense to do it like this, and not just going, right, I'll promote it this week, going, right, well, then I'll share this out again next month and the month after, just to make sure as many people see it as possible, because that's what it's about. It's about eyeballs, isn't it, on your content. And one question from Facebook user, I think it's actually Erin here in the group, and Erin says, what's a common mistake to avoid when starting to repurpose your content? Great question, Erin.
Yeah, I think, good question. I think when starting to repurpose your content, the common mistake is obviously trying to find a perfect piece of content. Remember, anything that you create that's like a big piece of content can be a starting point. It doesn't have to be like a blog that gets thousands of shares, or it doesn't have to be your most liked social media post. As long as the information is valuable itself, you could use this repurposing strategy to say that in different ways, and then that value then gets extended out. So don't overthink what should be reshared. As long as, in your opinion, it's the most valuable piece of content to you, that could be the starting point. And one last thing with blog posts, we talked about repurposing like on Twitter, etc. One thing that I did in my previous blogs, which was a huge game changer, like an actual example, was I did a 27 expert roundup blog post. And once each person had given me, like if Lucy gave me her tips, underneath I would actually create an image of that quote. And then I also created a link, which was like, click here to tweet it. So you made it very easy for someone to share. That post got like 10 or 12,000 shares. It was crazy. Yeah, I couldn't even believe it myself. But the point is, I made it very easy to share the information. So you have the tip. I had a click to tweet button. I had a big image so people could repin it and stuff. And imagine I had that 20 for all 24 speakers. So if you've got a 7-tip article, why not have a click to tweet this link under each tip and maybe create the images and embed it in your blog? So now there's a lot more easier ways of people can share the blog within the blog itself. And then obviously the repurposing is an additional way to get more people to like and share. So again, make sure to answer Erin's question, just make sure it's a valuable piece of content that you find the most valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that was helpful, Erin. So Ravi, to round off our monthly sesh, and we will be repurposing this. I'll have you know, everybody, this goes onto YouTube and it gets put onto the Digital Women website as well, and then Emily writes it up, and then we put something out on social media, so it gets really very well repurposed. We could probably do more though. We could probably do a little reel or something like that as well, where we do the little pokey thing at the screen and stuff. Anyway, but how do you want to round off, Ravi? What would you like to say that's important that people remember? Like, what are your top tips to take away from this sesh?
Yeah, the top tips are get started literally today, because it's not something that needs a lot of groundwork to get started with. Identify your hero piece of content, blog, video, or social post, and just today, as an action item, no matter what time you listen to this, try turning that into 3 different types of posts. So whether it's tweets, Instagram stories, Instagram posts, Pinterest images, just turn it into 3 different pieces of content and schedule it out, maybe spaced every 3-4 days. And then you'll actually see the direct impact of doing just that small activity. And then from there, moving onwards, you can obviously add to your repurposing list. So identify a hero piece of content, repurpose it into 3 different ways using the tips we mentioned today. And once you get more comfortable with that, start adding to the list. And like I said, I've seen repurposing lists go from 20 to 40 to 50 checklists. You don't have to go that crazy, but you will start getting addicted to it once you know how many places you can share your content.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what everybody starts to create. And if you do repurpose something, please do, tag us underneath and show Ravi that you've done it, because there's nothing better than knowing that the advice you've given has been put into action. Is that right? Isn't that right, Ravi?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you'll be more excited for yourself. You're like, I've just been sitting back here and my posts have been going up for the last week. So it's a nice feeling to know your message is getting engaged with, even though you're not directly there creating it every single day or week.
just getting really organized with it. So thank you so much for that, Ravi. It's been a really good session again. Really appreciate your time. If you guys want to go and find Ravi, he'll tell you in a minute where you can do that. And it's on the screen as well, youtube.com/c/Ravi Shukle Marketing. Loads of great social media tips on there. I definitely suggest you go and follow him and watch the videos and that kind of thing. And also don't forget to go and find out more about Digital Women at digitalwomen.live. You're all in the group anyway, this is not on LinkedIn, so I don't know why I'm even saying that, because you're all like digital women anyway. Ravi, how can people go find you if they want to catch up with you?
Yeah, so the YouTube one was the main one, and obviously at Agora Pulse we recently launched our YouTube channel, and the easiest way to find that is to type in Agora Pulse UK on YouTube. That URL is going to be pretty impressive if you can memorize that or pause it. So an easier way, head over to YouTube, search for Agora Pulse UK, and you'll see our brand new social media marketing videos. We've got a lot more exciting stuff for you. So if you want to learn more and about the topics we covered today, then go check it out.
Amazing. And don't try and type. I'll be impressed if you could type that out and paste the URL link in for YouTube anyway. So that's it, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you to Ravi, and thank you very much to Agora Pulse as well. Don't forget, go to social.agorapulse.com/digital-women, and you can get a free month of Agora Pulse as well, so that you can, once you've created all of this amazing content that you're repurposing, you can then scale it by scheduling it all into Agora Pulse and just knowing that you can sit back and relax while it's all happening for you. How amazing is that? Awesome. So that's the sales pitch anyway. It's not really, I'm just joking. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We'll see you again, I believe, is it the 27th of July?
Yes, I believe so. We'll double check that, but we're here every month, guys. So you'll definitely stay tuned.
Absolutely. Last Tuesday of the month. Thank you so much, Ravi. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Lucy. Take care, guys.
Take care.